So have you spoken to leadership today about the upcoming vote?
I have not, sir. You're all going to hurt yourself there.
Make way. He's taking the elevator. Calm down. You guys got to let him. You guys got to let him in the elevator. Elevator. Let's go. Ready? Are you confident, sir?
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 878, resolution providing for the expulsion of Representative George Santos from the United States House of Representatives.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Members record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 311, the nays are 114, with 2 recorded as present. 2/3 voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted, and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The clerk will notify the governor of the state of New York of the action of the House. Under Clause 5D of Rule 20, the chair announces to the House that in light of the expulsion of the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, the whole number of the House is now 434.
I had no skin in the game.
Did you know this is how it was gonna go? Did you know this is how it was gonna go?
You know what? As unofficially already no longer a member of Congress, I no longer have to answer a single question to you guys. That is the one thing that I've been saying forever.
Don't let the door hit you.
All right, guys, so once again, I have to make a video that I take no pleasure in making, okay, because clearly it shows the difference between Republicans and Democrats in Congress and how Democrats have a strong party and Republicans have a weak party. And that's part of the reason why Republicans continue to lose to Democrats, is because when it comes time to show some strength, okay, to have some cojones, they simply just fold, right? Every single time, because they want to try to take the high road on almost every issue, when we don't live in a political world where taking the high road actually gains you any votes, right? You don't get any votes by taking the high road, and Republicans just continue to get bent over and stuffed by Democrats every single time. And situations like this is exactly what I am talking about, as Republicans have came together with Democrats to expel George Santos. Now, George Santos is a Republican from a New York district that flipped red during the midterms. Now, George Santos has been a controversial character because he has allegedly engaged in unethical activities, for example, like using campaign funds for his own personal expenses, lying to voters about, who he actually is, his background, his resume, lying to Congress during the ethics investigation. And that has resulted in Democrats and Republicans coming together to set a precedent and expel him, despite the fact that he has not actually been found guilty of any crime, even though there is a federal investigation open against him, even though, again, he has not been found guilty of anything yet. Maybe he will one day. Maybe he won't, but again, he hasn't been found guilty of anything yet. He did not participate in an insurrection. He was not part of the Confederacy or anything like that, right? And again, this is a historic kind of first. And Republicans signed up with Democrats to essentially basically give Democrats another seat in the House when the House already has a very slim majority. So I'm going to talk about this. But before we get into it, we have to play a news clip so you guys can get a better understanding of what happened. Take a look.
Out of Washington, D.C., history in the making. The House has voted to expel Republican Representative George Santos, a move that hasn't happened in more than 20 years. The freshman New York representative was voted out after allegedly misusing campaign funds. ABC's Liz Landers has more from Washington.
Embattled Congressman George Santos removed from office following a third expulsion vote.
In light of the expulsion of the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, the whole number of the House is now 434.
The freshman New York representative removed after allegedly misusing campaign funds for personal expenditures. This fall, the Department of Justice brought 23 felony charges against Santos for alleged crimes like wire fraud and identity theft. Santos pleaded not guilty and continues to remind his colleagues there's been no conviction.
I have been convicted of no crimes, Mr. Speaker.
But a 50-page House Ethics Committee report released last month revealed even more damning details. Investigators claim he used campaign funds for his own personal enrichment, including rent, designer clothes, and Botox. On Thursday, allies and critics of Santos took to the House floor to debate his expulsion, with fellow New Yorkers like Rep. Mark Molinaro insisting Santos must go.
He has manufactured his entire life to defraud the voters of his district.
While others like Matt Gaetz of Florida expressing concern that a member of the House has never been expelled before criminal conviction.
It is an incredibly dangerous thing for people in Washington, D.C. to substitute their judgment for the judgment of voters.
Santos has become just the 6th member of Congress ever removed from the House. Santos's removal slims the Republican majority in the House now to just 8 members. Santos had been representing New York's 3rd congressional district, which represents parts of Long Island and Queens, meaning a Democrat could certainly flip that seat. In Washington, Liz Landers, ABC News.
All right, guys, so you've seen that, you heard that. Now, joining me to discuss this topic of George Santos being expelled in Congress, more than 100 Republicans voted in favor of expelling him, along with Democrats, is Mario Fratto, who is running for a congressional district in New York, not George Santos's district, but, you know, in New York. And I figured that he would be a good guest to bring on to discuss this, considering how he is currently trying to run for Congress. So I want to go ahead and get his take on this. So Mario, what do you think about George Santos being expelled from Congress? Would you have voted to expel George Santos?
Well, first off, thanks for the introduction, Greg. It's great to be back on the channel. It's always a good time here. Yeah, I'm running for precisely this reason, that Republicans need to stick together. They need to be voting in the interest of the people, and we need members who are conservative. So at this point, number one, look, I was a defense attorney. I believe in that principle. It's an American principle. It's you're innocent until proven guilty. This is the first time, I believe, in history that they've expelled a member from Congress who has not been convicted of any crime and wasn't part of the Confederacy during the Civil War. So that's pretty drastic. And it's a very small group of people. I believe he's the 6th member that they've expelled, period. So no, I wouldn't have voted for that, just for that simple reason. Now, it doesn't mean that I think Santos is a good guy, or that he didn't do anything that was sketchy or illegal, and maybe that will come out. But let's look at what we're dealing with here. We know that they told us Brett Kavanaugh was a gang, right? A serial, something like that, when he was trying to become a Supreme Court justice. We know that right now there's people saying that President Trump sexually or a woman in a fitting room in the 90s and all these things. On that standard, we're not going to have anybody left if just accusations are enough to take somebody out. And I'll just say this, George Santos has a great record as far as his voting goes. His conservative record's great. It's better than my opponent. I'm running against Claudia Tenney, who's in a 30-point Republican district. George Santos is in a district that Biden won, and he votes more conservative than she does. And we have a very slim majority. So we need guys that maybe not of Santos's character, which is yet to be seen if he's going to be convicted of a crime or not, but people that vote like that, we need them. And I think we really got to take a hard look at what we're doing, because if the shoe was on the other foot, the Democrats would not be removing one of their members.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, I'm pissed off about this. And the reason why is because I've been railing against weak Republicans. I think that stuff like this is a prime example of what separates Democrats from Republicans. Republicans will do this to their own, but Democrats will never do this to their own. I mean, you have Jamaal Bowman, who pulled a fire alarm in Congress in order to obstruct an official proceeding, something that Democrats set the precedent and said that this is an act of an insurrection when you do something like this, okay? He was caught lying, okay? He's pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges, okay? He was investigated by Capitol Police, and the House Ethics Committee declines to investigate him further. They declined to investigate him further. So there's not going to be a vote to have him expelled. There's not going to be a vote to censure him. They're not going to do anything. They just let Democrats get away with anything. Okay, but yeah, they'll turn around and vote to expel their own. Now, again, I'm not a fan of George Santos, right? I don't think that he's particularly a good guy, but I think that the voters should decide whether or not he should remain in Congress, because ultimately, at the end of the day, he duped voters, allegedly. Okay, again, the guy has been federally charged. However, he has not been found guilty of anything. And ultimately, it's for the voters to decide whether or not they want to keep him in Congress. Now, again, this is important because, like you pointed out, this is a swing district in Long Island where, historically speaking, Democrats have done well. So you flip the district and then you decide to basically give the district back to Democrats because they're already running a campaign there already, right? They're already running fundraising emails. They're going to pour a lot of money into that district. And I mean, based off what we've seen from the R-N.Y and, Ronald McDaniels and her fundraising and funding ability, they're probably going to blow the Republicans out when it comes to funding and winning that district back. Okay, because the Republican Party is incompetent. I'm so frustrated with this party. I really am. Like, they just can't seem to get out of their own way. And they want to punish themselves in order to try to stay above the fray with Democrats when you don't win any votes. I don't think anybody's going to the voting booth and saying, well, Republicans voted to keep George Santos in office. I don't think people are voting based off that stuff, right? So you're not winning anything by doing this, and you're just going to lose something, potentially a seat. You already have a slim majority. I don't get it, man. I really don't.
No, and for a lot of the viewers, they might not know how the process works here in New York State. I'm not sure how it works in other states, but I can tell you here that when there's a special election, that the candidate now who will be the Republican is going to be picked by the county chairs of the Republican Party. And in this case, I believe George Santos's district is only in 2 counties. So you basically have 2 men, which essentially it's probably going to be one, whoever has the larger part of the district, whichever county, I believe it's in Long Island, deciding who the candidate is with no voting, no primary. So you're going to probably get some political establishment guy that is picked, that is going to run. He's going to lose to the Democrats. And we're going to give it away. And like I said, like him or not, look, my opponent, Claudia Tenney's voted for taxpayer-funded sex change operations, amnesty for illegals, just voted to keep funding Pakistan, just voted to give funding assistance to illegal aliens and refugees crossing the border, right? Incentivizing more illegals. All these terrible votes. George Santos wasn't doing that. So we're going to substitute somebody like George Santos, who had that good conservative voting record, and we're going to get somebody like another Claudia Tenney, another political hack, who's going to come in there and vote with the Democrats. And like you said, maybe it's because they're in New York that they view this as a blue state. So even when they're in conservative districts, they think, oh, well, we got to vote like we're from New York. Similar to some California Republicans like Kevin McCarthy, who people believed was a rhino. At the end of the day, you're electing somebody from California, which is a very blue state, and they just kind of try to be accepted. And it's a losing game that we always do as Republicans. We care about what the late night hosts are going to say, the people in Hollywood, the people on CNN, like somehow they're going to accept us. And then you end up becoming what? John Kasich or one of these guys who takes a job on CNN, and they all laugh at you. And you're on a panel with 7 Democrats, and you're the one Republican who's a joke on there that sold out your own party so you can be liked by these people. And I think it's a disgrace. And look, that's why I'm running. And I'll put in my shameless plug here and just say, if you want normal people who haven't run for office, who aren't political hacks, and you don't want more of the same out of this weak Republican Party, vote for somebody like me and donate to me. Go to Mario for Congress and sign up there and make a donation if you can, because we can't beat the swamp without putting in real people. If we keep sending back these rhinos and these people who are so weak-willed that are going to vote with the Democrats, then we're going to have this fractured party that you look at all the votes, half the time we're voting with the Democrats. They're voting 210 to 0, 208 to 2. We vote 121 Republicans vote to stop funding the illegals that are coming across the border. 99, like my rhino opponent Claudia Tenney, voted with the Democrats to keep funding them. So this party's fractured because of weak Republicans. And I think we can do better. And it's sad to say that George Santos was supposed to be seen as a terrible Republican, somebody that half of Republicans just voted to get rid of, and he had one of the best voting records. So that's the party you got now, and I think we can do a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. You brought up the John Kasich type Republicans that go on CNN and, they want to play go along and get along gang when they're only bought on the network to bash Trump, right? Like I literally listen to Chris Christie and it's like, dude, you're only on the network because you bash Trump. They don't care about your policy. They don't care about your presidential campaign. They don't give a damn about you. You're up there literally to bash Trump.
It's like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Remember the guy in 300, the little guy that can't pick up the shield and he's like crawling around and then he goes and sells. That's what I look at when I see Chris Christie and John Kasich. I'm picturing that little sorry troll that's over there like, oh, all right, they're going to accept me. You're going to go fight with Xerxes and the Persians and betray the Spartans. That's what these rhinos are. They're sellouts. And it's pathetic to me. And New York State is full of them, but the country is, and I just think that we're making a joke out of ourselves because we never stand up on the issues that we believe in and say, look, there is no compromise. I'm not going to pay for somebody's sex change in the army. Like, there is no maybe I should, maybe, the fact that there's Republicans like my opponent that vote for that is a disgrace. And I think that this party needs to take a hard look in the mirror and decide if they're just going to merge into this uniparty with the Democrats and just, pull the curtain back and say, look, we're all the same. Or if we're going to put people in there that say, no, there is a left and a right, and we're going to be on the right side of this stuff. But these people just really turn my stomach, man.
Yeah, I think that, there are some issues. I think today where you say, look, we don't need to compromise on immigration. We don't need to compromise on crime. We don't need to compromise on the economy. Now, I will push back. I think that Republicans probably should do some compromise on abortion because they're getting their butts kicked on that issue. But what you're saying, I think, is something a lot of people are feeling in regards to when stuff like this happens. It's almost as if like there is no difference between Republicans and Democrats because it's almost, except Republicans just seem to be weaker. They just seem to be Democrat light, and this right here is kind of what that is to me, was like, dude, like Democrats don't lose votes by not expelling people like Jamaal Bowman or Bob Menendez, right? They're not going to lose any votes. Somebody's going to go in a voting booth and say, oh, well, you didn't kick out Jamaal Bowman. I'm not going to vote for you.
Right.
That's not going to happen with George Santos. But I think people will see Republicans kicking out George Santos as well. This is just Republicans, they even saying that they got bad apples in their party, right? When you admit that the dude is basically guilty before proven innocent, basically, I mean, you're essentially just giving Democrats a W. Yeah. And when they go and they flip this district because they're going to run on, well, Republicans want to ban abortion. They're going to run on that. And we've saw, especially in Democrat states, especially in, I would say, northern states, really. Again, that issue kills Republicans, right? And I think that you're just giving away a district to Democrats unnecessarily when you didn't have anything to lose by just keeping the guy in office. I heard mainstream liberals talking about how, oh, well, if George Santos stayed in office, then Democrats can just run on like, George Santos. I'm like, who cares? Nobody cares about George Santos except
they were doing it with Trump.
That's
what they did. They made it all about Trump. If you're a Republican, oh, you support him. You guys are insurrectionists. You guys are domestic terrorists, whatever. So one member of Congress who said his grandma was a Holocaust survivor and whatever he did. And to be honest, the funny part is the district he's probably in, I don't know how much Biden won it by, but that kind of background, if he made it all up, was probably the only person that could have won. He said he was a gay Latino man who was a grandson of a Holocaust survivor. He's part Jewish. He gave them the whole bag of goodies that the left wants. And they said, hey, this is a Republican we can get behind. And then it turns out it was most likely all BS. But at the end of the day, he won. And believe me, the guy they're going to pick is probably not winning that district.
Yeah. It's a sad thing to see. But hey, this is the modern day Republican Party. This is where we're at. We'll see what happens in the special election. Thank you so much, Mario, for coming on the show and giving your analysis. I think that this topic was extremely helpful in regards to you talking about it, because you are from New York, you're running in that state. So, this definitely is something that I think is relevant for you to talk about. So with that being said, you want to give any last remarks for the audience before we go?
Absolutely. I'll say it again, guys. We need to change something. This country is broken. The Republican Party is broken. They keep talking about making a third party and we got to do something. No, the Republican Party belongs to the people. It's our party. We can fix it by electing real people who are going to go there and take on the rhinos and the left. And I want to do that. So, guys, please, if you can, go to marioforcongress.com, make a donation. Whatever you can do will really help me. And follow me on Twitter at Mario Fratto. And I look forward to coming back on here and taking the House back into the hands of real Republicans in 2024 and cleansing the party from these rhinos.
All right. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective.